Today we're building a powerful gaming computer with a Ryzen 9 7009X along with the 4070 Ti from Nvidia. We're gonna go step by step on all the components and how to build it from scratch. So grab a cup of tea, coffee, water, whatever you like, and let's jump in for the ride. We're gonna start with the Asus motherboard ROG Strix B6550E-F. This motherboard supports the latest CPU from AMD, which is the 7000 series. It also supports PCIe 5 along with the built-in Wi-Fi 6. So now we're gonna take it out of the box. Just be careful and not to cut yourself while opening the box. Inside the box, it comes with a keychain, the manual, zip ties, SATA cable, and screws for the M.2 storage. So now we're gonna remove the plastic film out of the motherboard. We're gonna open the lever to install the CPU. I'm gonna remove this plastic cover. Some people prefer to do it once they have the CPU installed, but I prefer doing it now just to get it out of the way. And now we're gonna install the Ryzen 9 7009X. This is a very powerful CPU that comes with 12 core and 24 threads. To install it, we're gonna guide ourselves with a little arrow on the left top corner, and we're gonna align it inside of the CPU socket. So just be careful not to touch the inside of the socket. The outer part of the socket has a little arrow as well, so you can see in which direction the CPU has to be installed. We're gonna close the cover and then pull down the lever. Then moving on to the RAM, we're gonna install 32 gigs of DDR5 from G.Skill. This RAM do not have RGB lights, and that's why they're very affordable compared to other ones with RGB. We're going to install the RAM in dual channel. I recommend reading the instructions from the motherboard manufacturer. So in this case, this is gonna be on the 4th and on the 2nd slot. Make sure that the RAM actually falls into place and then lock it with a little lever on the back. For storage, we're gonna go with a 2TB Western Digital Black. And then we're gonna remove the NVMe plate. Just make sure that you align the NVMe with the socket. Once you install it, just close the lock and make sure that it doesn't move. And then on the back of the NVMe plate, we're gonna remove this adhesive, which is gonna attach on the top of the NVMe. And we're gonna put it in place and then screw it. Up next, we have the NCST H5 Elite case. And we're going to prepare the case by removing the front glass and the back cover. Each panel has a top and bottom screw. On the back of the case, we're gonna find the content for the case, which are some screws and some zip ties to organize everything down the row. So now we're ready to install the motherboard. We're gonna place inside of these little holes here, so just make sure that they align. And then just remove the film out of the I/O shield on the back of the motherboard. We're gonna tilt a little bit and then just put it in place on the back. Just make sure that they align with the little holes in there to install the screws. And then we're going to install the water cooler, which is the Lian Galahad AIO 240 RGB. Inside we'll find the water pump, the screws, and the fans for the water cooler. Right now we're trying to see where we want to place a water cooler radiator. It can go on top or on the side here, but in this case we're gonna go with the top. On the water pump, we're gonna remove the plate that came with it, and then we're gonna install the one that is compatible with the AMD motherboard. And now we're gonna install the fans. Just put it in place for now and then screw them. So just a warning here, later in the video we'll remove these fans to install other fans like a different brand, because we wanted the water cooler and the back fans to be the same type. And then we're going to flip the case and remove the filter on top. We're gonna align the radiator and then just put the screws on top a little bit loose, and then we'll screw them in place. Now we're going to apply the thermal paste into the CPU. Just put a little bit of it. Then we're going to install these little hooks into the radiator pump. Just put them very loose because we're gonna tie them once we put it on the socket plate. Once they're in place, we're gonna screw them very tight. Here we have the controller for the fans. We're going to flip the case to the back, and then we're gonna connect all the fans to the fan controller that came with the water cooler. Then on the front, we're gonna connect the water pump cable into the connector, and the RGB cable into the RGB connector. For the power supply, we have an MPG by MSI, which is a 850 watts, rated 80 plus gold. Inside of the case we find a power cable and all the cables necessary for each of the components. We have the motherboard cable, CPU, SATA cable. This is a fully modular power supply, which means you can connect only the cables that you need and not having all of them as extra. Then we're gonna connect the 24-pin motherboard cable. Then we connect the two CPU cables. And then the 600 watt cable for the graphics card. Now we're going to install the power supply, making sure that the fan goes down or facing down, and then install the screws on the back. And as I mentioned before, this is a modular power supply, so I forgot to install the SATA cable, so we're going to install it to the motherboard. That's why you see me with a flashlight in there. And now we're about to install the graphics card, but first we have to remove the back plate on the case, and then remove these two grills, and here we have the 4070 Ti by Zotac. It comes with 12 gigs of VRAM, which is really powerful for gaming at 4K. And here we have the support bracket for the graphics card. And in this case, we didn't use it because the graphics card wasn't that heavy. And also the connector, but we already had one that came with the power supply. So here you have the beauty, the 4070 Ti by Zotac. So we're gonna remove the PCI cover and remove one other grill and then just move it up. Align the graphics card into the PCIe lane. Make sure that it locks in there in place, and then we're gonna screw it. And then we're gonna put the back cover again on the case. So now we're gonna put all the cables to the front, including the motherboard cable, CPU, USB 3.0 front panel connector. So now we're gonna move the motherboard cable to the front. We're gonna split one of the CPU connector, and then move them to the top in the right corner. And then move the 600 watt cable for the graphics card. If you see me moving here, that's because I'm fishing all the cables to the front. Then we're gonna move the case front panel cable and connect the NCST hub into the SATA power, and then connect the CPU cable into the motherboard and connect the 24-pin motherboard cable and the 600 watt cable into the graphics card. I know it's kind of dark, but I'm connecting the front panel cable and the audio cable. And as I mentioned before, we were going to remove the fans from the water cooler because we wanted to keep all the 3 fans the same, the back and the water cooler one. So we're going to be using a Thermaltake fans that comes with the hub. Simply unscrew the fans and unplug the cables on the back. So now we're going to fish the cables for the Thermaltake fans and screw them to the radiator. And then screw the back fan. Then we connect the 3 fans cables into the fan hub. And then we connect the USB cable into the USB connector on the motherboard. And then we connect the mallet's power cable, which goes into the power supply. So that's why again you see me with a flashlight just installing the mallet's cable into the power supply. Alright, so we're almost ready with this computer. So we're gonna get all these cables organized. So the way that I do it, I put bigger cables to the right, smaller ones to the left, and then I go little by little organizing all of them. You can use these covers that came with the case already, like part of the metal, just to hide them. And I also use these Velcro straps that allow me to organize them way faster, so you will see how I do them. So for the hubs, I usually tend to hide them on the bottom, and that's because they're way too big and I didn't have an option at the moment, so getting these fans was just last minute. But look at this beauty. Who wouldn't marry this computer? So now let's just close the back cover. And now the moment of truth. Well, we made it. If you made it this far, just subscribe. So now you know how to be a whole gaming computer with this video, and if you want to keep watching more videos like this, you can watch it on the recommended side here. I built other computers as well that you can learn more. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and press like on this video because I will be bringing you more videos like this.